All right, welcome to the fourth video segment of the review session. Only this isn't a review. This is our impressions video for this recording. And this is the kind of early access game that reminds me why we list them as impressions and not reviews, but I'll get into that a bit later. First, I gotta intro this thing, and it is called The Scouring. The Scouring is an RTS with a fast pace, high attention to detail, and next generation experience. Would beg to differ on that, but once again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Lead humans or orcs in a classic mode, or use one of the powerful heroes to fight for victory. Play alone or with friends. I will also note here and now, we only got one code for this, so no multiplayer tests. Good job, guys. Use our modding tools to create maps and custom game modes. Join the Scouring. So yeah, the Scouring is in early access RTS game, and it's aiming to be what the kids call a full fat experience. That is to say, it's aiming to be an RTS game like the ones you used to play in, say, the 90s or the early 2000s. You know, your Command and Conquers, your Warcrafts, your Company of Heroes. Cite something a bit newer. Age of Empires. You know, the list goes on and on. And from what I understand, this game started out as a solo dev exercise. I don't think that's the case right now, but still like in the hands of a small team. That's kind of playing into my caveats into the Scouring in the here and now. Because, as I said, the end goal is to be, you know, an RTS game with all the trimmings. Those trimmings are not here yet. No. More like you've got a solid foundation. You've got the good bones for a grand RTS epic, but it's literally not there yet. And there are some other things that doesn't look like it's going to be increased that give me pause. Like, okay, you note in the bullet points that it mentioned humans and orcs. So that's two classes. That's two player factions. That's not a lot. Like, even going back to the golden age of RTSs, past a certain point, two factions, unless you were legacy, like Command and Conquer, that's something that was going to be looked at with derision. About the time when StarCraft came out and, you know, showed what you could do with three factions, and numbers have increased since then. So going with two factions, it's a bit basic, but okay. You know, once again, small team. They want to focus on core aspects, and once again, that's really the thing that's holding me back on this. Core aspects of RTS. Because what's here is very solid, very traditional. You've got the units you would expect. You know, builders, peons, war units. if you've played an RTS game, you know the units, you know the building structure, you know the tech trees. No surprises there. I suppose I should get to the interesting bits, which are artillery. You one of the higher tier units are cannons. In fact, they have their own special building. Well, no, like I'm not. I'm trying to remember if they were solely dedicated to cannons. I think in terms of building, yeah, but cannons are their own independent unit and they're really powerful. But they have, some caveats in usage. They're the most interesting individual unit here. The other gameplay quirk that this RTS is introducing, and I'm not a fan of it myself, is nighttime raids. That is to say, at night, you will be attacked by waves of enemies. It says you can turn this off. I didn't seem to be able to turn that off. I don't know. Weird. Because, how do I put this? Like, that's not, like, I don't want to be on defense completely in, like, day one. Now, sometimes the enemy may attack. Sometimes they may not early on. Yeah. But once again, it's got all the basics down, the fundamentals, at least in terms of land units. Now we're starting to get to the missing content, or more accurately to say, the in development content, because like being worked on like right now are things like naval units, aerial units, more specialized ground units. Once again, stuff to give the actual combat gameplay, etc., 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 more body, more flavor, more tactical thinking, and so on and so forth. That's just like part of the roadmap. Additional map biomes. In fact, the last major update introduced the winter biome to the mix. And the ultimate goal of reaching 1.0 is getting a proper campaign mode. That's the biggest thing, literally, that's missing right now. Because all you can do in the game right now are what's basically skirmish mode or fast play. They call it classic RTS mode, but this is more properly known in classic RTSs as skirmish mode. It's got hero mode. And if you don't know what hero mode is, that's it's actually a bit more in depth than your usual hero mode. So your classic RTS hero modes is like Age of Mythology has super powered units called heroes. Warcraft 3 has them as well. They are, like narratively important super units. But here in this hero mode, it's one versus many, as in it is one hero versus an entire army of enemies. Once again, an interesting sub mode. Still not the main event. No. and that's really what it comes down to in terms of looking into this game. Where it is now, it shows great promise. Once again, everything is a bit tried and true outside of hero mode, and a few other design specialities. But it's really down to there's a lot coming, but the roadmap is quite long. By that, they are estimating their early access period is going to take around 18 months. And this game entered early access in August of 2025, which means that was about 4 months ago at time of recording. So it's still got another year of early access development, provided everything goes smoothly. So that's a bit of a wait. And the other caveat is pricing. Because right now the game is being priced at $25. Now, that has to be relayed in conjunction with the other important early access pricing question. Will the price increase as it goes along? And according to the early access roadmap here, the price will remain the same. So, once again, that's a bit of a moving target. Kind of incumbent on if they fulfill their development processes. Because as of right now, this game is not worth investing $25 for. Sorry, once again, it's got neat bones, but you're basically buying the scaffolding for an RTS game right now.
You're paying on promises that may or may not be fulfilled, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's the other thing that holds me back, because once again, this is a small team that's plugging away at this. No idea about their
first time. This is the first time team, or is this like at least has other works to go off of that lead us to believe there could be something finished at the end of this?
Like, it's their first work on Steam at the very least. So,
because that does matter,
I know, but that's one of those things that probably have to ask in terms of the development process. But it's like, unless you've got a gaggle of friends to play, because it's also kind of predicating itself on user-generated content, like a lot of RTS games do. But once again, you're not Age of Empires, you're not Warcraft, you're not one of the grand poobahs of the RTS field. So that means the Steam Workshop is pretty barren right now.
Does it have anything in there yet, or
I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything in like the mod section yet. Once again, this game is a new RTS that's in early access and has only been out for 4 months. Now, that doesn't preclude that there won't be user-generated content and all of that stuff. It's just, the community seems to be focused on like bug fixes and stuff, and providing feedback for the main game right now. So, because like if you read the Steam reviews, there's a lot of complaints about the content, not surprisingly, and I can't really blame them, because it's a thin veneer, unfortunately. It's bare bones. Maybe one day it will reach its goals But at press time, it's a bit too threadbare for me to recommend comfortably at $25.
Mm.
It's unfortunate because I also know that this kind of game is kind of really, really incumbent on the developers getting early access sales.
Right.
So it's a bit of a catch-22. But it's like, if you feel like you want to support the developer, etc., 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 go for it. My job here is to evaluate the product as is and, recommend or not recommend a thing on that moment in time,
Mm-hmm.
not the future. So if it were 15, maybe. If it were 10, certainly. 25, no. Like, I honestly do think that they should have gone with the expansive pricing model.
Yeah.
Like, this should have been coming in at $5-10 now, and 25, down the line. They didn't want to do that, fine. But it's
Yeah.
like, I have to size up your content against your price point now.
Indeed.
So, right. So, any other questions, comments, or concerns over the scouring?
No.
Yeah. All right. So, I think that'll about do it for this review session. And, indeed, that'll do it for the season and the year in terms of reviews. So, coming up on the week ahead, we will be having our last show of regularity for the year. There will be broadcasts during the holiday break, but this is the season finale.
Well, I guess there should be. It depends on scheduling if we can actually make like Digimon streams happen and whatnot.
Right. You all figured that out, but I'm talking about our last regular program.
Right.
Yeah. And so we did have a guest lined up for that, but they had to tap out due to apparently not just busyness, but reading between the lines. Things aren't going too well over there. So they needed to back out for the time being. And given that this just happened, I'm not going to be able to find somebody before, in like 3 days, right before Christmas kind of deal. So we're going to be looking at some Christmas video game content. On conversational footage, we'll be looking at Sonic's Christmas Blast. I'm wondering, Petty, have you seen this?
Which one is this from?
Well, that's the thing. This is a weird one because it's technically a crossover.
That one.
Because
I
technically,
vaguely remember it, but I also probably not seen it in 20, almost 25 years.
Yeah. Well, to give you the basic rundown, it's technically an episode of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, but guess who shows up? Princess Sally.
Yep.
Okay. She's not usually in that one.
No. And it was done a couple of years after the main series, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And we're also going to be doing our first foray into the original Pac-Man cartoon, the one from the 80s.
Ah, yes. I remember the Christmas one used to come up a lot on Cartoon Network this time of year.
And indeed, we're going to be looking at that very special, as we'll be looking at Christmas Comes to Pac-Land.
That might be the only episode of that TV show I've ever seen.
Once again, like, it was weird because I remember that episode playing around Christmas time. I don't remember ever seeing like the actual Pac-Man show on Cartoon Network.
Mm-hmm.
Also no idea if that one will get that episode blocked on YouTube. It's kind of a roll of the dice with new content. Sonic stuff doesn't get blocked. It'll get noted for monetization, but not blocked.
Yeah.
So, well, one way to find out. But until then, I shall wish you good gaming.